Carri, Twigg, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
We
Happy
are.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween to our listeners. We're here. We are so fired up. There are officially, is it 5 or 4? 4?
I don't know how you, I guess 4.
How do you count the days?
Because we'll be working, it'll be like November 5th is going to be a very long day.
True.
So it's
almost
not
like,
as though
yeah.
it's over. I was actually wrestling with this morning because I've been posting like things like counting down the days. And I was like, 4 days? It's like 4 days until Election Day, but Election Day is going to be like torturously long. So 5. And then that presumes that we know who the next president will be.
It presumes that we'll have the results back.
Which
that
feels...
We won't get the results back
Yeah.
on the night, I think. I think it's just going to be too close.
Yeah.
Right? We know that there will be legal challenges regardless.
Right. No matter what.
No matter what. So, yeah. No, but you're right. I mean, this is a great segue. Welcome to the Twigg Jenkins podcast. We are 4 to 5 days out from one of the more memorable elections in campaign history. Twigg and I have been on this journey together. We're like rounding third base. But honestly, these next few days, it's everything. You know, like if you watch sports, it's like when you watch a baseball game, like it really just does come down to the last inning. It does come down to like the last quarter. And I'm feeling good. I woke up feeling good.
Hey,
yeah,
you've been a real roller coaster. I will say, you know, I adore you, and yet you've not been great for my emotional mental health over the course of the last. Particularly, it's really gotten very feverish the last week. You're up, you're down. We're gonna win. We're gonna lose. In my texts all day long.
I called Carri while making ramen yesterday and just ranted for a good hour. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go eat my ramen now. And she's like, okay, babe.
And then you basically were like, I got to go. And I was just like, wait a second. I've been so patient and generous. Yeah. And now you're like, I'm busy. Now I have something else to do.
Now I have to eat food.
Meanwhile, I'm in the Philly headquarters, like carving out. But it's fine.
It's fine. I'm sorry.
This is obviously my first priority.
We're saving it. We're saving it for the pod.
Save it for the pod, bro.
How are we feeling? You came down to, it's very sweet of you. Twigg came down to DC to record this pod, then heading right back to Philly.
Yeah.
Our producer Boyle, drove down for this pod. We're going to get this out. Tell people watching from home, what are these last few days like in a campaign? This is like a very exciting moment for a campaign.
Yes and no. I mean, it's the moment where everything you've been working toward really either comes together, or you really see where neglect or mistakes have been made. And so
great point.
And this has been an unusual campaign in that it sort of has had all these fits and starts. And so there's real questions about how well that infrastructure will do when it's time to like really hit the gas. But there's a couple different things. One, millions of people have already voted.
Millions
and millions. And so that's really helpful because that...
Sorry, team.
Between my phone and your phone. And so that helps to, you know, shrink the universe of people that we have to contact.
Yep.
I think this is one of those elections that, despite how much it feels like it's dominated our headspace for so many months at this point, most people are just sort of locking into.
Yes.
So there's
an election?
You know, so there's also like people coming in off the street into campaign offices like, hey, can I help out?
Yeah.
And we're like, where were you last week? But yes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so staff is going to be doing a handful of different things. There's going to be very, very little need for people in the headquarters, in offices. And so we're going to be out and helping to knock doors and helping to organize sort of very hyper locally on the ground, precinct by precinct. And then there's also going to be a subset of the staff that sort of hunkers down and literally goes into what we call the boiler room. For the next, basically starting Saturday until Tuesday, in shifts that will go on all day and all night.
Won't sleep.
And I know they actually do shifts now. Like back in my day, you just stayed awake. Like you were just like full on crazy eye by the end
bottles of
Wednesday.
pee. You know, you just pee in the bottle. Just don't leave your desk.
But those are like these hyper secure environments. where all the strategists and all the people who have on the ground relationships, all the people who have who control sort of the last minute resources in terms of money or vans or whatever are sitting, looking, deploying resources, people, time, treasure, right, across different states, across different precincts, troubleshooting problems, getting all the data in, analyzing that data, and then using that to, again, make those decisions about where to deploy resources. And so I will be out in the field, obviously, because I'm not like a senior staffer who is running things, and I have to be able to talk to you depending on how the day goes all day long, you know? So I'll be somewhere in Philly helping on the like comms and political rapid response team.
So exciting.
And probably knocking some doors. But yeah, so it's going to be every major battleground state in the country as well as headquarters is going to sort of either be thrusting people out onto the doors or sequestering senior level people to kind of watch the numbers.
It is a very funny or fun thing to watch. In Chicago in 2008, I was a part of that small team that oversaw all of the volunteer field organizations across the country in all these battleground states. But you're right. It's like a deployment, because by the time you get to this final weekend, there should not be a single staffer in Chicago. They should all be in the states doing something.
Unless they absolutely have to be in Chicago.
And Mafo and I were one of those very few people in Chicago, in the boiler room, in, you know, those last few days. But I felt like I wanted to go with everyone. Like everyone else was parachuting in to really be there and be that support for, you're right, all of these influx of volunteers are coming.
Yeah.
Right. And so to be prepared for them. And then especially in this election, the concern around voter protection, the concern around
is so real.
I mean, there have been ballot boxes that have been put on fire. There has been intimidation. There has been, you know, already on my feed, videos of people getting in altercations. All that shit is going to be very real.
Yeah.
This is Trump has done a very good job of firing up his base to believe that this election is going to be stolen. And so protecting staff, protecting poll workers, and in many cases, being ready for when that shit goes down. Like, how do you protect your staff? How do you report this to the authorities? And most importantly, how do you protect the integrity of the vote? Right? Like, I don't know how many other ballot boxes are going to get blown up from now until election day.
It's wild to even say that, and that's a real thing. I mean, it's crazy. And that's such a change that was unfathomable as recent in the pre-Trump era. Like 10 years ago is absolutely unfathomable. And the campaign's taking security really seriously.
Yes.
I mean, one of the remnants of the pandemic that we all sort of interact with is that we are now both more comfortable and better equipped to do remote work.
Yep.
And so, yes, there are things that have to happen on election day in order to make sure that we're doing the massive get out the vote effort that the campaign requires. And then basically after that, once we are in a scenario when Donald Trump will know whether or not he won or he lost, and will gin up his supporters regardless of whatever that outcome is.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to see staff congregating in offices with a bunch of hair signs around the country. It's just not, for security, it's just not going to be something that's viable. So there are plans in place to shift how the campaign starts to operate immediately after polls close.
Yes.
For that very reason. And obviously I don't want to go like into the plans of it, but it's the fact that we have to think that way is really devastating. As someone who spent so much of my teens and 20s working on campaigns, I would never have thought about it. Like you show back up at the office the next day and it has all the candidate signs. You never think twice.
Yeah.
Never in a million years would I have been afraid that someone would shoot me if I had walked into the campaign office in 2006 after Ted Strickland beat the Republican governor candidate in Ohio. Never.
It's unbelievable. I mean, Trump is stoking it already. I think you'll notice how he's tweeting about Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if you saw this tweet.
No,
Twigg is in
obviously
Pennsylvania. But he tweeted about seeing all of the stealing of votes that's happening in Pennsylvania already, fraudulent voter registrations. So,
This man.
you know, if and when, and God willing, Trump loses, there's going to be a very severe backlash.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a very real, I believe, organized effort. I think Mike Johnson is also complicit in this, has already mentioned how, as Speaker of the House, he has the power to certify this election, and that he has to see that this is, you know, a real election, or these votes are real. So they're laying, what we're saying here is they're laying the groundwork.
Absolutely.
And it's one, it's a shame, but two, it's even more of a reason why not only does Kamala Harris need to win, she needs to win convincingly.
Big. Yeah.
It needs to be without
Huge.
a doubt. It needs to be, you know, in sports terms, it needs to be a blowout.
Yeah.
And even that, I think we'll see all of this nefarious shit.
No, then it'll be like, there's no way she would have won this much.
Right.
Of course, there's obvious evidence of voter fraud. Like, it will be that if she wins in a landslide, it'll be no matter what, they're going to do this.
Yes.
As you said. And I think one of the things you were saying earlier just now is you are now starting to see glimmers of, or willing to allow yourself to believe that she might, in fact, blow him out.
Yeah, I woke up, look, this might be the first time, and maybe I'm jinxing it all. No, I woke up this morning, trick-or-treated with my kids, so cute. Guys, we trick-or-treated at the White House, and President Biden gave my kids candy, which is pretty dope.
Top
pretty
tier.
Cool.
Top tier.
It's pretty cool. But then we did our normal trick-or-treating last night, and no, I was just like, in the zone and thinking that we've been so laser focused on this manosphere, right? They've been, you know, in many ways dominating the media because Trump is just, that has been his go-to. It's not been knocking doors. It's not been traditional organizing. It's not policy. He doesn't have any policy proposals. It's been, I'm going to go on the most popular white male podcasts and platforms in the country, and I'm going to get my word out that way. And I think I've just convinced myself that this strategy is going to work, and that this low propensity male vote is going to be unleashed. You know, like Trump is now like the Obama for white men, right? Like, this is what was keeping me up at night. But then I started to think about it. I'm like, wait a second.
Chicks.
Yeah.
Really have their stuff together.
Absolutely. Women have their shit together. Women vote.
Yeah.
They just do. Men, the people, I mean, Michael Yo actually did call this when he was here. He was like, they're not going to vote.
Yeah.
You know? So that was one. And then number two, I think there are so many things in this manosphere that is so narrow and so specific, and their blinders are on. And there's a whole world, there's a whole culture that they never talk about, that they never touch. That is real life. You know what I mean? And I just woke up this morning, I'm like, you know what? I could totally see Kamala Harris just blowing him out of the water, and us being so navel gazing, so reliant on these polls that are not accurate, that are undercounting Democrats now so as to not repeat what we did with Hillary. It can happen. It can happen.
Of course. And I think that, and you and I have been having this back and forth for a long time, sort of off the pod, which is, I just can't express enough how badly I think the Republicans overreached on abortion.
Yes.
Women have power and agency in society because of contraception, because of abortion, and because of IVF. And we know that. You do not need to persuade us of that. And I think that there are going to be millions and millions of women who may not kick up any dust about it, may never put on a camo hat, may never put a sign in their yard, might not even publicly ever disagree with their husband or their father or their brothers or their coworker or whoever. But when they get their moment, will remember that their ability to have the life that they want, or at least a closer version to the life that they want, a degree of autonomy, a degree of security in their own independence, is 100% under threat. And that we may not yell about it, may not protest, but won't allow that to happen to the best of the ability that we can.
Yes.
And also, to your point, like, women are just more organized, generally speaking in generalities. Of course, we know we love men, but they're going to have arranged themselves in a way that their ballot will have been delivered on time. They will make time in their schedule to go to the thing, have the, you know, the time off work or whatever needs to happen in order to get that done. I think is a more reliable demo amongst women. And then also, I think that maybe because we came a little late to it, I know we've been talking a ton about how the Democratic Party and the left in general has sort of negated an outreach strategy to men very specifically.
Yeah.
I also think that perhaps it's been a little bit more effective than we give it credit for. The Tim Walz's, the Coach Walz vibes, the way that Barack Obama has been trying. I know that he turned off a lot of black men who felt that he was being condescending. But I think that probably also worked for a lot of people too, right?
Yeah.
And we don't talk about that part as much. I think even having Joe Biden in the White House and how extraordinary of a president he has been, the example that he set by stepping down or stepping away from running again, I think that there actually has been a lot of outreach that we might have picked off, perhaps more of the Manosphere adherents than we like to think. Maybe not the hardcore, but just some of the ones who are like, to your point, who see the narrowness of the Manosphere and are like, this is a little much, you guys. Like,
Agreed.
I actually really like my girlfriend or my sister or my mom or like my female coach. Like, I don't know that like blaming Jews and women for everything is right. You know what I mean?
Doesn't get me too fired up.
Like, I like the workout stuff and I like the
yeah.
accountability and like get up and make your bed and say your prayers or whatever these dudes are telling these dudes. But some of it has to not be working either.
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed.
some of it might just, it's just like, okay. And you lost me at the Jews thing. You lost me at everything being women's fault. Like, you lost me at the watermelon joke or whatever, the Puerto Rican joke. Like, okay.
I'm with you. I also think that that's being reflected in the data. Women are voting at greater numbers. If you look at the early vote numbers across all the battleground states, this is not that much of a surprise. But if we were counting on this lower propensity, crazy male vote to come out of the woodwork, they're not voting early. They're just not. They're not. So, you know, and we were talking about Nevada, and Republicans are voting, but young men aren't voting early. So, you know, look, they've got a few days to get their shit together. It remains to be seen whether they will. But, you know, I think that the thing that does still worry me, not to get, you know, because again, this
gotta
is just
nurse your nerves a little bit.
This is just the way I work. Is I am a little bit taken aback. I was doing, you know, we've been kind of like surveying the media landscape, right? I think we talked last pod about how even still to this day, the media does not know how to cover Donald Trump. I think the only media entities that know how to cover Donald Trump are John Oliver, the Daily Show. Like, I think comedians know how to cover him.
Interesting.
Because I think that what they do is they was it the Daily Show or Jimmy Kimmel? I think Jimmy Kimmel, God bless Jimmy Kimmel, did this great monologue for Republican voters. It was this like 17-minute monologue, and he was like, if you have a Republican mom or a dad or an aunt, show them this, right? And it was very heartfelt, but a lot of what he did was he just showed Trump. He just clipped, this is who you were voting for. There's not a lot of context. There's not a lot of panels that need to dissect what he means by what he says. It was just showing him in his raw form and saying, is this the guy you trust? This is the guy you trust to lead our country? This is the guy you trust with the nuclear codes? And there does need to be a little bit of humor, I think, in my opinion. I think Democrats have lost our ability to laugh in many respects when it comes to Trump. I think when Trump came in, yes, he was doing awful shit. Yes, the house was on fire. Yes, vulnerable people were at risk. But one of our greatest attacks on Trump, was Walls calling Vance weird. I think, again, Kamala just not taking him seriously.
Yeah.
This campaign, I think, has treated Trump the right way.
Yeah, totally.
I think Hillary did not. Hillary treated him as this existential threat.
100%.
And that didn't work. I think the way that the Kamala campaign has approached him, the way that their social media team has approached him, has been spot on. In the culture, podcasts, and media platforms that refuse to touch on politics, that will talk about anything under the sun, movies, pop culture, celebrities, all of this. But when it comes down to talking about what is happening in real spaces, real places, real people, we'll be like, well, I can't talk about politics. I can't talk about politics. When Dave Portnoy at Barstool is talking about politics.
Yeah.
Right? All of these right-wing provocateurs have no qualms about talking about politics. But ESPN can't.
Well, you know what's sorry.
No. Go. Sorry. That was my rant. And so if Trump wins, I think there needs to be a real hard look in the mirror of any single person who has had a platform and who has remained silent.
Well, I think one of the interesting, because this was the part of the rant you were going on yesterday, and I think one of the interesting things about that in particular that I was thinking about since you brought it up is the fact that the guys on the right who inject politics alongside culture and technology and sports and all these other stuff have much younger audiences.
Right.
And I've long nursed this sort of pet theory that if you're our age or older, like you grew up in a newspaper world, like you think about gathering and conveying information in a format of a newspaper. So like there's real estate, there's sports, there's business, there's politics, there's world politics, there's arts, there's culture, and none of that is supposed to touch. All of it belongs in different sections of the paper, and they are distinct and they are finite and they don't intersect. And if you're younger than us, you started growing up collecting information off of a feed.
Right.
Off of an RSS feed, right? With the invention and the introduction of that. And so you're used to a story about politics next to a story about culture, next to a story about sports, next to a story about like the person you think is hot, next to the story about whatever. And all of it makes sense and it feels intuitively connected to you when you're younger. And I think the people on the internet and the talent on the internet that understand how to effectively and intuitively link varying kinds of information to one another are attractive to young people because that's how they want information delivered. And so people who adhere to like, no, we stay, there's this lane and that's where we are and we stay in it have these older generations who actually reject the idea that you can put all sorts. It feels messy and chaotic. And I think that we have done a really bad job of building a class of entertainers or commentators or like the next generation of like people who are thinking about how to share their opinions on the left and in progressive spaces in a way that the right, whether they did it intentionally and or organically, has proliferated and flourished.
Yes.
So like if you only have a handful of options if you're Kamala Harris on what podcast you can even go on to then convince someone to leave their lane and talk about politics. Whereas if you're on the right, if you're Donald Trump, there's all these shows where the audience has been trained to expect that there is conversations about science alongside conversations about policy.
So many options. Yeah. Sorry, my rant was completely incoherent, but I loved every minute of it because it's like we're grappling with, and I think we're also, there's a Hill piece, which is what we do all the time. Like we're already finger pointing, even before the election is over. If Kamala loses, like, why did she lose, right?
Can I say something on this?
Yeah, please.
Rightfully so.
Let's go.
Right down the barrel. Rightfully so.
Let's go.
There is blame to be carried.
Yeah.
Saving it for later.
You're saving it for the November 6th pod?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, there should be blame. I mean, look,
There were bad choices made.
So many bad choices. So many bad choices. We're going to get into it. There's no reason to talk about it now. But, historic money haul. Money was not, when it came down to why can't we do X, Y, or Z, the answer was not money, because she had more money than any campaign in presidential history.
If she wins, it will be due to the incredible strength of her candidacy, not because of the infrastructure of the Democratic Party.
Right. Democratic Party or her campaign, or both?
I mean, her campaign is 100 days old.
Right. True.
So like, she's trying to accomplish in 100 days what should have been built over the course of the last 18 months. And so
100%. That
is both the DNC. It is also the campaign that preceded her. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but here we go.
We're going to do it.
It's...
Well, in her defense...
I defend her.
Yeah.
It is not her fault.
I'll say this. In the Democratic Party's defense, now I sound like my wife, God bless Maria Jenkins, there was not a primary process. So the primary process is that way of building, every 4 years you have there's a primary process. We benefited for it from Barack Obama, like that long primary fight.
Totally. And it goes beyond that, because there wasn't a primary this year.
Yep.
There wasn't a field campaign at all in 2020.
Yep.
And then in 2016, we just did not think there was any scenario in which Donald Trump won. And so there was almost no persuasion, which is also how you meaningfully get a train your volunteers, right? So you had the primary, the competitive primary between Bernie and Hillary, but then it sort of just went quiet for the summer. I mean, obviously people were doing things, but it just wasn't as robust of a field operation as they ever thought they needed to have, because they were like, of course Hillary's going to win against Donald Trump. And so that means that it's been since 2012 that there has been like a full force, robust, boots on the ground.
It's 12 years.
That's so long. And which means we have a generation of organizing talent that hasn't gotten the opportunity to work at this level, at this scale, in a way that so many people our age had, right?
Can we call them talent though? I mean, that's like a long stretch. This sounds mean, but like, do we think that the organizers, the RFDs and the FOs and the volunteers know how to knock doors right now and persuade people?
Well, this is my thing. This is what I'm saying. I think that they're not as good as the generation before them, in large part because they haven't gotten the reps in, they haven't gotten the experience. And yes, there have been local races, but like the infrastructure hasn't been there to train up the people.
Yes.
And I don't know what to call them other than a talent pool,
you
know?
Yeah.
And I think there were also strategic choices made about how to set that infrastructure up and attempt to reassemble it that were wrong.
Yeah.
And it's made the campaign potentially harder than it needed to be.
Yeah. The article did also cite Biden a lot, which I found striking and interesting. There's two pieces. There's an Alex Thompson, he just loves to just like talk about someone who just loves to rabble rouse and just like stir the fucking pot. But Alex wrote a piece last week about how, and this is interesting, right? Like why the White House would leak this. But apparently Biden wanted to get out there on the road in the last week, offer to go to Pittsburgh, offer to go to, parts of that white working class blue wall that he knows he resonates with. And the campaign said, we're good.
Oh, I missed that article.
We're good. I
missed that article.
Yeah. So, which was interesting. You'll note Biden was not at the rally, at the Kamala rally. Biden has not been in with her at all.
Yeah.
In places where the White House and Joe Biden himself believes he can really help. And, he's also offered to go by himself. He's offered to go to Pittsburgh, Scranton. Right.
Here's the thing.
Right.
I don't know how you feel about it.
I mean, let's get into it. We also did not discuss his garbage comment either. So.
No. I have an enduring affection for Joe Biden.
Yeah,
Joey Blue Eyes, Joey Guns, like that's my guy.
As does he for you.
True.
Joe Biden loves Carri Twigg.
And he has always, not even just in his older age, but he has always been a little hot on the mic.
Yeah.
He has been prone to gaffes and slips.
Yeah.
The very first trip I ever took with him, I think we were in Iowa. We flew to Iowa. He called someone an Oriental. And had to apologize. Like this was 2013 or something. Yeah. So it's not as though, it was 10 years ago. I mean, it's not as though he was a much younger dude. Don't get me wrong. He is a incredibly gifted retail politician. I remember also staffing him in 2008 in rural Ohio, like down in Appalachia. And he has such a gift for gathering people and being like, listen, I know none of you know any black people, but like Barack Obama's great. Like you're going to love him. He's a family man. He's just like you. And it actually put people at ease. Like it actually took people off of the fence who needed a validator to vote for a black person in a way that they just did, frankly. And Joe Biden is extraordinarily gifted at that. It comes at a cost. Often.
Risk reward.
High risk, high reward. The risk is getting higher.
Risk is getting higher. As
we know over the course, the garbage comment being a perfect example. Her own gaffe on Sunny Hostin of saying that she can't think of anything she would do differently. That is now in every single Trump attack ad. I don't
know that was even a gaffe though. I think that has just been the campaign, right? I don't think that they ever really thought that through, and I think it's one of the things holding her campaign back. But we can. But
she walked back from it, and so now everywhere she goes, she's like, "I love Joe Biden, and I will govern in a different way." She said it in her closing argument speech.
No, I know, but I don't even know what that means. I mean, I think that the only example that she's given is like, I'll appoint Republicans to my cabinet.
Sure. Fine.
That's the only real example that she's given, right? So, I mean, we call it a gaffe, but I think if you just look at the campaign website, policy proposals she's offered, the closing argument, it's not
just the truth.
It's just the truth. Sorry, I mean.
Fair enough. All right, but my point stands in that I don't know that Joe Biden on the trail is actually as beneficial as it would have been if this race were happening when he were 10 years younger.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And in a race that is, despite the potential for her to blow him out, is going to be won by very, very small margins.
Well, that's the one part where I'm like, we don't want this situation. Remember Clinton Gore, right? Where he was just like, I don't need you, Bill. You're toxic. And then after the fact, they were like, why didn't you have Bill out there? I think that it is going to come down to so few votes. And I don't know. I'm like, I have a soft spot for Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden, even the garbage comment, which I think was taken completely out of context and such bullshit.
Totally.
I mean, why not get Joe Biden out there on the road? Why not get him out there in Pittsburgh? You know what I mean?
It's not as though he's the only... And listen, this is actually a problem to be discussed after Election Day, but he's not the only old white man we have in the Democratic Party.
There's a lot of old white men. We've got
Bill Clinton is in PA right now.
Bill Clinton also stepped
Bernie Sanders
in Michigan. I'm not sure if you saw that.
Oh God, see this one? I mean, you know what I mean? Bernie Sanders did some barn burners in northwestern PA.
Bernie's been
over
great.
The course of the last few weeks. Got to cut some great footage of him talking about unions, talking about the economy. He's done an amazing job. Tim Walz is on the ticket for this reason.
Sure.
You have Governor Shapiro out there running around. You have Mark Cuban out there running around. Like, we have white dudes who can do what Joe Biden is doing. And I think Joe Biden will go down as an extraordinary president. I think his legacy and service, yada, yada, can't say enough about it. And
he's a liability.
The dude's a liability. Come on.
He's a liability. I agree. I agree. Again, I don't know.
You got Barack Obama running around everywhere.
Yeah.
Like we have plenty of surrogates.
Okay. Who's been your top surrogate in Pennsylvania so far?
I cannot believe I'm saying this. I've actually stopped myself from saying this because I gave you so much shit over the years. But Bernie Sanders, man.
Yeah.
I know,
Look at that.
I am late.
Clip it. Oh, shit. Wow.
I have been late to the party, but I have arrived.
God bless. See? Look at that.
And you know what? I think it is because I always had Joe Biden, right? And so I have no need for Bernie.
Sure.
Right? Like Joe Biden's as good on unions and all the working class issues that I care about. And I think he actually had a racial lens and a gender lens that I could work with that Bernie didn't. And
he's been great.
Bernie's been great.
Bernie's been really, really good. If we had to give out awards like MVPs, surprise MVPs, maybe not even surprise MVPs. I loved AOC playing Madden with Tim Walz.
Yeah.
Which was great.
That was great. I don't know much about video games. How was that?
It was great.
Did
there's a
someone
couple
win?
of things. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. I mean, Walz didn't know what he was doing, which was great.
Oh,
Walz
hilarious.
also was sort of exposed for maybe it was his social media team was exposed for not understanding football terminology because their tweet made no sense.
He's not doing his own tweets.
He's not doing his own tweets. So that's just like a nerdy, future Democrat of America.
Future Democrat.
Future Democrat of America.
Farmers.
Social media director who doesn't know how football works. But
It wasn't me, but
I love that AOC, out of respect, I believe, played as the Buffalo Bills and not as the New York Giants or the New York Jets, because New York Giants and New York Jets
you guys
fans
have
know.
3 football teams in New York?
Well, we technically only have one because the New York Giants and the New York Jets play in fucking New Jersey, the greatest state in this union. And neither team is called the New Jersey Giants or the New Jersey Jets. So God bless AOC for picking the Buffalo Bills. The only
I never
team,
really thought about that, actually.
the only team that actually plays in New York State.
Huh.
So,
I never thought about that.
God bless AOC.
Hilarious.
I feel like
right, because MetLife Stadium's in Jersey.
Yeah, they're both in Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would think at least one of the teams could be called New Jersey. Like give the Jets something. You know what I mean? Like they need to have some kind of identity. Anyway, moving on. What are some of your other MVPs? Cheadle was great. What's his name? Brody? Adam Brody? No. Did I pronounce his name? Adam
Brody. Yeah. Adrian? No, that's a
Thinking of
different
Adrian
one.
Brody.
Yeah, it's a different one. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam was great. I mean, honestly, there have been so many people. Kerry Washington's always great.
She's
Robert
always
De
good.
Niro's been in and out of the state. Leonardo DiCaprio. I will say this. Leonardo DiCaprio came. And
Did you guys have a drink? What was that situation?
I'm way too old for Leonardo
Way too old
DiCaprio.
for Leo. I know. But maybe, who knows?
But way too old, way too thick. Anyway, but I was shocked at how famous he is.
Yeah, he's still very famous.
He's so famous. And with demos that I just don't imagine clocking.
Yeah.
Like little old black ladies and like just jumping up and down. I was like, okay. Like I was a little bit dismissive of sort of the sketch that we had for him. I was wrong. I did not.
You did not factor
understand
in the
spread the range that he has amongst
Leo
his fandom.
Celebrity factor.
Yeah.
Was that your event where Leo, De Niro, was it Carri? You guys had like a press conference and De Niro just went off and just started cursing, just calling Trump a piece of shit. Yeah. Because that was great.
Yeah.
Like I was surprised.
You're welcome, America.
I was surprised the campaign didn't clip that and turn that into a beautiful.
There's really strict rules around stuff that they put on.
Right.
But if you have a big platform and want to post some videos, I have some rejects.
Bro, that was
I have some really good videos at the I mean, other people organize that. I think the Black Women for Harris regional director, I did not like organize that event, but I was there filming it and doing some stuff.
Twig and I went to a Black Men for Kamala event in Philly, which was great.
Yeah.
So many old school Obama friends at that event.
Scandalized Wally.
We hugged Wally and then told him about all the dysfunction happening. And then he literally was like, I just told my boss everything was going great. His boss is Janet Yellen, by the way. So I was like, this is the deputy secretary of the Treasury. He was like, maybe I should call her and tell her things are not going well.
And I was like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that, Wally. Don't do that. But, one of the things I was going to ask you, because you're in the thick of the surrogacy work, are there any last minute, I remember Hillary had Jay-Z and Beyonce that last week, Obama. I feel like we've gone to the well with Bruce. I feel like Bruce is now, speaking about scarcity, like I think we've done a little bit too much Bruce. We need some new folks. I've seen Gracie Abrams. I've seen Maggie Rogers.
Which
seen
is
some
so
incredible female artists. Do you have anything to share with us in these last few days? Beyonce didn't perform, which is a huge letdown.
She didn't, but I will say this well, I actually do have some gossip about that, but I probably shouldn't.
Please.
Yeah.
Let's go. Are you going to save that for November 6th?
I probably should. But I think she was calling a flyer.
Got it.
I will say that. I think that she was going to call a flyer about whether or not she was going to perform. However, I actually think it was a huge deal for her to speak. Like
Agreed.
Beyonce, I think because people teased her or whatever, but she's never been much of a talker.
No.
And so I'd never seen her do that before. And I think for people who have grown up alongside her sort of culturally, Beyonce becoming popular, like changed my life, not because her music changed my life, but having her in the public eye in that way.
Yeah.
There was like a before Beyonce and an after Beyonce. And if you're a Black girl growing up in America, we just didn't have we had Janet Jackson, but like Beyonce represent our generation's sort of opportunity to exist in the world. And her suddenly being like the cover girl and the prettiest woman in America and all of that, like it was a big deal for us.
Yes.
And so we're used to seeing her perform. Everyone knows she's the greatest performer alive.
Yeah.
We haven't actually heard her use her voice in this way. And I think it was actually really cool and special.
I
think the fact that it was in Houston also makes it really interesting. There's a big abortion ballot initiative happening in Texas. There's a potentially flippable Senate seat in Texas. So for her to speak, it was actually a cool thing.
I agree.
I think for women of my generation.
And they made that event. I thought that event was very well produced, it was Freedom, right? That's her song.
Right.
But that whole event was about reproductive freedom.
Yes.
Right. And this idea of freedom itself, which I thought was spot on. I do just think, maybe you should have let the media know that she wasn't going to perform before the event, because I think there was a very real sense of a letdown among the people that were there and also among the people covering it. Like, why isn't she performing? But if you would have done it that way, that's like such a better way. What you just did is such a better communications strategy of explaining, no, y'all have seen Beyonce perform.
Yeah.
We've all seen her perform. You're going to hear her speak. And this is the reason why this is that much more important, But are there final performances that we should be ready for? Like, if you are doing the surrogate stuff right now, but like, if you had your druthers, what artist would you choose to close?
Do know of some.
Okay.
I
Can't disclose.
Cannot disclose. I mean, listen, Taylor Swift's at the top of everyone's list.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm surprised. I'm actually
it's the outstanding one.
Surprised.
But I think it's because she's on. I don't know.
She's on tour.
She's on tour. Who knows?
She's forever on tour. Is she just always? It's like Cirque du Soleil. Like she's just always.
I don't know.
She's just forever on tour.
I'm not an era girly, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I would totally go if anyone wants to invite me to the Taylor Swift show. I'll come. But I've not sought that out for myself.
She's not performing in the Eras Tour is not like in battleground states, right? It's like overseas right now.
No, but she's from Pennsylvania.
I know. I get it. I'm just saying I
just found that out.
There's no like Venn diagram of she happens to be stateside. But she's like in Paris, I think. She's like overseas, I believe.
Who knows?
Anyway.
She's got a very fast plane though, so I don't know that those kinds of logistics are actually going to be the barrier.
True. Other than
Bad Bunny,
that should be it.
Bad Bunny would be.
How many Puerto Ricans are there in Pennsylvania? Like 600,000?
I've heard conflicting numbers, but it's somewhere between 400 and 750,000. I mean, huge.
That would be dope.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the best surrogate's an early surrogate.
Yeah.
Like Bad Bunny in northern Philly on Monday. I mean, great. Better than never, but like.
Yeah.
It would have been great 2 weeks ago, too.
That was the other part, too, which is the diminishing returns of anything happening right now, right? I mean, the millions of people who've already voted, a lot of early vote periods are over by now. So now it's like...
Philly included. Like, PA included. Like,
yeah.
For early votes over, and so now it's all election day.
It's all election day, and so... We don't want people to go to a Bad Bunny concert on election day. We want people to go vote. It's like you only have a limited window of time where you can actually go vote. And so the diminishing returns are real. What are the things keeping you up at night? Because I think I've been bedwetting. I've been, worried, keeping myself up at night. What are the things keeping you on edge?
I think she wins. I think, though, I'm very, very concerned around the certification process. I'm very concerned about political violence.
Yes.
I'm really starting to think a lot about what has to happen culturally, no matter what happens in this moment. Like this is untenable.
Same.
The way that this is unfolding, the level of kind of vitriol and distrust and mistrust and not wanting to like be around people or talk to people or live next to people because of who and how they voted is brutal. And it's untenable. You cannot sustain it. And accountability.
Yes.
Like accountability for getting us here. You got to turn around and punch the bully in the face. We have to start drawing fundamental lines and assigning blame and demanding accountability for what's happening. So those are all sort of those sort of lofty big things, but really specifically, I think that this is about to be a mess of sort of a certification process and a voter intimidation process. Mm-hmm. I mean, the audacity of Republicans to talk this much game about or this much trash about how illegitimate the election process is while doing everything they can to make it as unstable as possible.
Oh yeah.
It's just like that. And that's been going on for years and
that's
years
their
and
playbook,
years.
Though. Yeah. That's their playbook around government itself. It's like, we're going to talk about how government doesn't work for you while simultaneously making government not work for you.
Yes.
Right. It's a reaffirming vicious cycle that I am very worried about that too. And I'm also very worried about, and we're seeing it, with polls, but I'm going to be really fine. Like, Tom mentioned this among the Asian American vote. I think Democrats will see a very real loss of young people of color this cycle. Very real.
Really?
We're seeing it among Asian Americans. Tom has not been as public about this. I think you and I have been talking about black men. We've been talking about Latino men. And you're right. I think
along gender divides, though, because I feel like young women of color are not.
Young women of color, God bless them.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. Right? I mean, women, broadly speaking, God bless them. If Kamala Harris wins, it will be because of women.
Yeah.
So you're right. Maybe I need to qualify it and say young men of color.
Yeah.
It's a very real concern. And speaking of accountability, I think that we have to share. There needs to be a real look in the mirror of why.
Yeah.
I
think that's right. And we don't talk much on this pod about the states, but I am keeping an eye on the 10 sort of abortion ballot measures that are happening around the country, caring a lot about what happens in the Senate.
Yes.
John Tester doesn't look great. Sherrod Brown is in a tight race in Ohio. So there's a lot of...
The Senate does not look good. The House looks doable.
I would love for Hakeem Jeffries to be the speaker.
That would be amazing.
His brother Hassan, have I said this on the pod? His brother Hassan is my favorite professor from college.
Oh, get out of here. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah,
I think
also
that
very good looking. That was unnecessary. I don't know.
I love
that.
Look, this is why people come to the Twigg and Jenkins podcast. We still haven't done our, speaking of MVPs, we still haven't done our best looking surrogates of this cycle, which we can really get into. I do think on November 6th, we should have a 3-hour pod, right? Maybe not 3 hours, but like, I think
Joe Rogan it. Let's give him a run for his Joe Rogan it. Give him his run for his money.
How long can we go through it?
Give out some specious medical advice.
There's a lot that I think we can say. There are a lot of viewers of the Twigg and Jenkins podcast who are our close friends who are not only working at this White House, but also working on this campaign. And I think of them every time we're speaking because this work is not easy.
It is not. And everyone's doing the best that they absolutely can, especially right now.
People are not sleeping.
No.
People are working. Our friends are leaving their children behind and moving to cities and moving to states across the country to beat this guy, right? And so, first off,
I feel profound guilt for being here.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I abandoned my post.
This is a public service. People are getting fired up. People are getting information. People are hopefully sharing information. The one thing I will say is it's not too late. And I think yesterday Twigg made fun of me, but I was like, what can people do? What can people go to? There is actually, I think the Reach app is what people should do. I think that people should go. There's a link. We'll maybe put the link in the podcast itself, in the description. But it's so simple. You download this app, you put your phone number in, you download this app, and it will just geolocate where you are, and it will show you every single volunteer opportunity for you.
Brilliant.
Across every campaign. Not just the Kamala campaign, every campaign. Nonprofit campaigns.
Amazing.
Policy campaigns. Advocacy campaigns. People running for city council. People running for school board. And so
I've not heard of this.
Yeah, it is on the Kamala Harris website. So you were correct, but it's kind of buried. Like you do sort of have to find it. Like if they're, you have to be like, all right, how do I get involved? Where do I go to knock doors? Such an easy thing for you to do. And I was going through it yesterday, and I don't think that people realize, because that's the other thing, I have a lot of friends who are maybe not that fired up to vote for Kamala Harris because of what's happening with the war. I think a lot of people are, sort of disillusioned with, does my vote even matter, right? Like I live in California or I live in New Jersey. It doesn't matter what I vote for in the presidential. Let's not let that. I don't like that. I think that
somebody wrote a great op-ed about this, that it was just like, if you care about Palestinian lives, you need to do everything you can to advance a world where negotiating for their health and safety and dignity is even possible.
Yes.
And if you vote for Donald Trump, if you don't vote at all, if she doesn't have a mandate,
yes,
that fundamentally jeopardizes that ability. And I said last week, I don't blame people and protesters for changing the narrative, for driving the narrative. But when it comes to actually voting, it is an additional tool that you have. Doesn't mean you have to support her. Doesn't mean you need to wear a shirt.
Yeah.
But you are advancing. You're making a strategic choice that advances a world in which the thing you actually want to happen is far more possible.
Yes.
And that is what being a grown-up is.
Yes. Well, I mean, even Noam Chomsky himself said to not vote is bullshit.
Yeah.
To not use that is the one power you have. Your voice is your vote. And to throw it away it means that you fundamentally don't understand how power works.
Yeah.
Right? Protesting is not
Totally.
enough. Protesting is just not enough.
Well, it's all part and parcel of the same thing.
Yes.
It's like working out, eating organic, and then chain smoking cigarettes. It's like just there. You actually have
You're
to
allowed
approach.
to do that. You're allowed to do
Of course,
that.
you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to do whatever you want, baby. But you are
defending
undermining
my unhealthy eating habits.
Sure, but you're undermining the very thing that you're attempting to invest in, right? If you're out in the street, you're protesting, you're organizing your community, you're posting on social media, you are educating and making people aware of what's happening in the world, and then you are neglecting this other portion of it, you are not actually moving in a way that is going to support in a like the very thing you're trying to do.
100%. So download the Reach app. We'll put it in the comment thread. And then I was thinking about this, Twig. Maybe we do this. Maybe we do one more recording before Election Day. But I was also thinking out loud.
You got to come to Philly then.
I'll come to Philly.
Yeah.
But I was thinking out loud how one thing that we all have the power to do, which no one really does, even myself included, is we just sort of assume that people know who we're voting for and why. And people who, are on social media every single day of their lives, but who don't post, right? Because they're like, I only have 300 followers, or it doesn't matter because no one is really listening to me. I think I've been noticing some just friends in my network, people who we've worked with, who are just kind of posting like, here's the reason why I'm voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Just very simply. Like, and some of it has been policy oriented. Some of it has been about their daughters. Some of it has been about their mom. Like, but making it personal and sharing that, there can be a bit of a ripple effect of people saying, like, things like that. I think we undervalue the power of our own voices. And it's not, people are not going to be convinced by an ad. I'm just sorry. I love these ads, but like, people are not going to see a Kamala Harris ad and be like, you know what? I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah. I do think in these final days, it's going to come from real people in real people's lives that maybe convince them, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to get off my couch. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to, right.
To this day, people will put in my comments or something. Just like, Carri and I went to high school together, and so I trust her. And it's like, I've known Carri since we were 17.
Right.
And if she says that that's not true, it's not true.
That's right.
Because she'll tell me the truth, right? And it's not, you have an insane amount of followers, but it's like, it's not like I trust Carri because she has so many followers. No. It's literally because we went to high school together.
It has nothing to do with
or whatever.
That. In fact, it's almost the opposite, right?
It is.
Yeah, I think it is the opposite.
And so there's so many, and I think people are getting more sophisticated. I think we're breaking the fever dream of the influencer, right?
Yes.
And it's just, especially so many people are just being paid. Like many people, like I saw some crazy report that their influencer got $65,000 from the Trump campaign. I was like, wait, maybe I'm in the wrong.
They offered 52 mil. Did you see that? The Trump campaign offered 50 Cent $2 million to perform.
Yeah.
And 50 was like, fuck off. Which is great. God bless 50. But
isn't that because Netflix told him he couldn't?
Oh, is that right?
I'm pretty sure people at Netflix.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people at Netflix were like,
"Oh, interesting. Okay,
babe.
All right, I gave
now.
Curtis too much credit.
Yeah, I don't think it was an ideological stand.
Got it.
I think he probably is making more than $2 million from Netflix and was going to put that in jeopardy.
Yeah. I'm feeling good.
That might be speculative. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm hoping we can do one more pod before Election Day.
All right.
Kind of last minute
Monday night. Let's
vibes,
do it.
Monday night. And then we're going to do, I think, a long pod the day after. Send in your questions. I think the other thing is what I'm also realizing. We should set up like an email address. Ooh.
I actually put my assistant's email address on the Instagram like yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. So if you message us, it sends Esme a note.
Perfect. For people that are listening, guys, I was going through we're now at, I think we're close to 180,000 streams. So we were very excited because we hit 100,000 last week, and we're already close to 180,000. The white dudes for Harris pod
Went bananas.
It has like 80,000 or something.
What?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who are you
so
people?
Cool.
So,
Thank you.
So email us, add us. You know, if you have questions, we're gonna go through all of the states.
I'm not the only one who loves white guys.
Post-election, I know people love white people. Post-election, and we're gonna keep it real with. You know, we're not going to finger point, but I think we're going to talk through Twigg. All right, I take it back.
Dropping dimes, man.
Twigg is going to finger point. I will not finger point because I'm not in the thick of it. But I think we do need to, like anything, right? We call it like an autopsy or an audit. The fact
Post-mortem.
The fact that Donald Trump, regardless of how this comes out, the fact that, again, millions and millions and millions of people will vote for this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know.
Never underestimate the enduring power of being a television star.
A television star.
He was in the culture for so long, and you're just still seeing people repeat. They're like, I know him, and they're talking about the character he played on television.
100%.
It's amazing.
They're talking about Home Alone too. No.
Yeah, basically. Robin Leach, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, The Apprentice. You can't underestimate the power of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here. I want to go get taco or something.
Twigg and I are going to get some tacos. We were dressed appropriately. Everyone, go download the Reach app. Go knock on doors. If you're coming to Philly, Twigg will drop her pin. You can just come give her a hug. Give her a hug at the headquarters.
Actually down for that, so long as you are going to do a volunteer shift.
Exactly. You can only get a hug from Twigg if you volunteer. But let's do it. 5 days. Let's go. Thank you, guys.